And now, ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Kay Kretsch, CEO of Dismas House, and Steve Cook, Chair of the Board of Directors.
Well, hello everybody, good afternoon, and welcome to the 2023 Forgiveness Luncheon. On behalf of the Dismas House Board of Directors and staff, thank you for supporting our mission to break the cycle of incarceration. Today, you will hear testimonies of hope, which would not be possible without our partners, collaborators, and friends. We want to extend a special thank you to our table hosts and sponsors. On the screens, you'll see all of our freedom sponsors, impact sponsors, and advocacy sponsors. Steve.
And to our co-chairs, we truly appreciate your help in making this event a success. Please stand for recognition as I call your names. Lori Bell. Dr. William Arnold. Christina and David Arquette. We are also honored to be joined by numerous elected officials. Freddie O'Connell, who's actually a member of the best class family ever, Leadership Nashville. Have to throw that in there. Thank you for being part of our signature annual event. This is where dignity begins.
In the heart of Nashville, second chances start every day. Arriving from prisons and jails across Tennessee, formerly incarcerated men enter our campus and discover a vastly different path to re-enter society. These men are sons, fathers, brothers, and neighbors. They share a past, but also a future full of potential. Often, though, freedom proves to be overwhelming instead of liberating. Release initiates a new set of challenges: job hunting, securing housing, rebuilding damaged relationships, all while facing the harsh stigma of their past. Yet, within these walls, hope thrives. At Dismas House, these men find not just a roof over their heads, but a community that believes in their potential. Through programming that addresses the whole person, residents receive the foundation needed to rebuild their lives, an empowerment to succeed long-term. Here, life skills are honed, job placements are found, addictions are overcome, and most importantly, dignity is restored. This transformation impacts us all. It strengthens our community, bolsters our economy, and reduces recidivism. The story of Dismas House and its residents is one of hope, re-entry, redemption, and collective strength, embodying the belief that every individual deserves an opportunity to redefine their life and contribute to society. Dismas House, more than a chance, a change.
To begin today's program, please help us welcome our MC for the afternoon.
The Emmy Award-winning meteorologist who has helped Mid-Southerners wake up for more than 15 years, Mr. Leland Statham.
Yeah, you know him, yeah.
How's everybody? Good afternoon, everybody. How's everybody doing today? It is a pleasure to gather here in our community to celebrate second chances. If you have attended the luncheon previously, this year's event will be unlike any other. But before I share more, what I want to do right now is introduce a guest who has a positive envision for Nashville, a positive message for change. So please join me right now in welcoming newly elected Mayor Freddie O'Connell.
Well, thank you, Leland. We're both looking especially healthy because we just both got to be at a Taste of Bellevue the other night, enjoying food in the Bellevue community, so it was wonderful. And I want to say many thanks to the co-chairs for today's event, and to CEO Kay Kretsch for having me, and certainly to Leland for emceeing today. He is close to as many places as I am, it seems like, and I spent 500 days running to be mayor, so it's pretty impressive. Now, the faces I see today are the folks leading our city in so many different ways, and I look forward to hearing from the inspirational Lewis L. Reed here in the coming moments. But there is a simple, important reason I care about this work. And it's because 16 years ago, I moved to the 37208 zip code in Nashville. And some of you may have heard the story of 37208 in the past few years. We've done some work as a city around this. I've done some work personally around this because just a few years ago, a study from the Brookings Institution revealed that if you had been born around when I was born, in the early 80s in Nashville, 37208, if you were born in that zip code, you became more likely to become incarcerated later in life than any other zip code in the United States of America. The impact and harms of mass incarceration have been felt as hard as anywhere in the country here in Nashville. And that means it is up to us to repair some of those harms, because much of that incarceration had nothing to do with violent crime. And this is why second chances matter so much. Years ago, the father of a good friend worked at Dismas, and I got to visit the old 8-bed house a few times for dinners, simpler meals than today's. And I used to wonder what it meant. What did Dismas mean? And now I know. It's what we must do to welcome the penitent thief, Dismas, to our community. Whether it is the reentry program or the independent living program, men and women finding their footing and hope again, thanks to the work of Dismas House. And for some of these folks, their partners at Dismas House become their family. And when we radically celebrate their success, we invite others in the community to do the same, growing support systems, and affirmation for them. The second chances, the process of penance, are valued here in Nashville. If you have not been to the remarkable new Dismas, please take an opportunity. And as you're a part of today's lunch, look for every opportunity you can to support these second chances and the work of Dismas. It is an honor to be here today to be a part of continuing that work here in Nashville. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Good to see you again. And what he didn't say at the Taste of Bellevue, he actually got up on stage and danced a little bit with Super T. But it is great to have you with us, and we look forward to a bright future in Nashville where everyone has a fair chance to succeed. Now, let me share some of the importance of Dismas House. If you haven't heard the term recidivism, take a look at the screen. When an individual leaves incarceration in our state, there is a 46% chance they will be reincarcerated within 3 years. Again, a 46% chance. Today, you will hear directly from men who could have been a part of that 46%. But at Dismas House, they've discovered a lifeline to reimagine their futures. This is why the work that we do is so vital.
Growing up, I didn't have a very good home life. I was on drugs a lot, off and on for 15, 16 years. I got to Dismas House in May of 2021. I was helped every step of the way. It changed my life around. If I wouldn't have volunteered to come here, I would have been back in the same boat I was in before prison. Dismas House set me up with a personal therapist, and I've never been in therapy before, and it really helped to get things off my chest and was able to talk to someone about everything that has gone on with me and is going on with me. They help you see that you are worth more than prison. Dot Electric did the electricity here. Dismas House set me up with the president of the company. We emailed back and forth a few times, and I decided Dot was the place I wanted to be. My future goal is to become a master electrician. It takes about 8 years, but I'm working on that now. Went to trade school, I graduated. I'm in another trade school. I have my own home now, I have a cat. I go on several trips a year. I love it. Prison it's not a place people want to be. It's a place that some people think they have no choice but to be. And this place really helps you see that it's not. You can live life better. If I could describe Dismas House in one word, it would be amazing. My name is Charles, and Dismas House to me means a second chance.
Yes, Eddie, you can live a better life, and we thank you very much for sharing. At Dismas House, we continuously examine our holistic programming to better serve each resident's needs. Since the last luncheon, we have introduced several notable changes. First, we grew our case management team to provide the best care for our men. Secondly, our clinical team is now working with each resident along their recovery journey to create individualized relapse prevention plans. The majority of our residents experience adjustment disorder, untreated mental diagnosis, and other barriers that impact their navigating their desired career path. To address this, we have doubled our employment programs by closely working with the state of Tennessee and incorporated individualized placement and support known as IPS. This supportive employment path will help our men find work in 45 days and provides a long-term employment specialist. With IPS, we have increased collaboration with the Davidson County Sheriff's Department office and its brand new Behavioral Care Center. Lastly, we have added a partnership with the Department of Human Services to offer specialized services for our fathers. Today, we celebrate a single-digit rate of return at just 6%. So again, just 6%. So with supporters like you, we are setting the national standards for re-entry into our society.
My name is Christopher Dorsey. I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana. I moved to Memphis, Tennessee when Hurricane Katrina happened, and my life has kind of been a little rocky. Being incarcerated for the time that I was incarcerated, to come into something as modern and new age as this is, it's a little scary, right? Because it's a certain expectation on you now. Everything was perfect, and I wasn't used to perfect. Dismas House allowed me to get my driver's license. They helped me with my barber's license. They actually gave me their personal computer to take my barber exam. It just shows, how far they'll go to help you. I cut hair, I'm doing well. The barbershop allows me to create. It allows me to express myself, to be myself. I have a family, a career. I did 7.5 years. When I go out, I represent people in prison. I represent New Orleans, Louisiana. I represent Dismas House. And I want that to be reflected off of me. So when you see me, you see change, you see hope, you see great energy, you see, that's a bad man right there. My name is Christopher, and Dismas House means to me a bridge of where I came from and where I'm going.
That is fantastic. Wow, the joy that we see in Chris's life now is remarkable. And those sunglasses, wow. He knows that his future is bright. And Chris, we thank you for sharing your journey. Now it is my genuine pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker. Our speaker was previously incarcerated for 14 years and has since become one of the country's leading figures in the field of social impact. He is a Council of Criminal Justice trustee, Forbes Coaches Council member, Huffington Post contributor, producer for the Hulu series Unprisoned, and guest commentator for the Law and Crime Network. He brings years of experience in government, public health, and criminal justice expertise. His policy reform experience includes leading advocacy for the historic First Step Act of 2018. A true change maker, he has received numerous accolades recognizing his work and leadership, and we are truly honored to hear his story today. So everyone, please join me in welcoming our keynote speaker, Mr. Lewis L. Reed.
My brother, appreciate you. Thank you, thank you. Good afternoon, Nashville. I'm sorry, good afternoon, Nashville. Thank you. Let's act like there's some Southern hospitality in the room this evening, this afternoon. For those of you, just a slight programming note, for those of you who are not familiar with colloquial terms, when Chris said, I'm a bad man, that wasn't bad meaning bad, that was bad meaning good. Just as an FYI. As introduced, my name is Lewis L. Reed. I'm getting a little bit of feedback here. Thank you. As introduced, my name is Lewis L. Reed, and I am so ecstatic about being here this afternoon in Nashville with all of you. First and foremost, I want to thank the board of directors. I want to shout out the CEO. I want to thank our honorary chairs, and I want to point to personal privilege to shout out my homegirl, Jessica Guzman, and her team who put this entire event together. This is dope. This is not dope as in heroin. I mean dope as in terms of like cool, just FYI. And if law enforcement is in the house, I'm reformed. As introduced, I served 14 years in federal prison. 14 years in federal prison. During the time that I was incarcerated, there was one of three things that happened with me. First and foremost, unapologetically, I'm a person of faith. And so I had a spiritual transformation. That was one of the things that allowed me to recalibrate my life. The second thing that happened was I got me a little bit of an edumacation. That's how we say it in Bridgeport, where I'm from. Got a little bit of an edumacation. Had the benefit of matriculating through university and earning a bachelor's degree in psychology. I earned another bachelor's degree in criminal justice, and I went on to earn my master's degree in clinical counseling. I also have the benefit of being a licensed clinician. I'm also board certified in the state of Connecticut. Why am I bringing that up? Because my topic for you today, if there's something for you to remember, we're going to act like we in Sunday school, or we're going to act like we in church or Wednesday night Bible study. If there's a subject that I want you to remember, it's from chains to change. The path of redemption and dignity. The path of redemption and dignity. So today we are here, and the theme of this luncheon is where dignity begins. Where dignity begins. Where dignity begins. Dignity is the foundation for human development and progress. I want you to imagine something. Imagine a race where everyone starts at the same point. Everyone has a fair shot at success. When we treat one another with dignity, we are setting the stage for everyone to reach their fullness of potential and making society better in the process. In effect, when we're talking about dignity, we're talking about something that you probably have heard at some point in time in your life where your mama, your grandmama, somebody in your life probably told you to treat people the way that you want to be treated. That's the golden rule of life. That's where dignity begins, treating people the way that you want to be treated. You'll notice that in our introductory remarks today, the people who have been described that have made their way through Dismas House have not been described as felons. The mayor came up and he didn't talk about convicts. He didn't talk about anything other than people who had been incarcerated, people who need a second chance, people who need a fair chance. That is the crux of what dignity embodies when we are in conversation about people who have been impacted by our justice, our criminal legal system. When I discovered dignity for myself, never forget this, I was incarcerated, and there was an officer who was in the federal prison. His name was Baker. And in every institution all over the United States of America, there's always an officer by the likeness of Baker. And one day, I was taking some plastics and I had threw them in the garbage. And he said, "Inmate Reed, pick that up." And he used the word inmate like a pejorative. And he said, "Inmate Reed, pick that up." And I went back over to the garbage can because it had rimmed out. There goes my NBA career. It rimmed out, and I picked it up and I put it in the garbage, and I went to walk away from him. And then I stopped. And I said, "Baker, I have a question for you." He said, "What is it, Inmate Reed?" I said, "I wonder how much more off that we would be better as a society if we took the same amount of care that we do with plastics going in their appropriate container and compost going in their appropriate container. If we took the same amount of care with human potential and we didn't discard them the way that you seem to think that so-called inmates need to be discarded." From that point on, Baker never called me Inmate Reed anymore. I actually graduated to Malcolm Luther Reed, and that was a term of endearment for Baker. But that's where dignity began for me when I was incarcerated. It was small gestures as such to be able to move the minds and transform the hearts and the opinions of people like Baker in order to see that beyond the 13959-014 federal registration number, that I was actually a father, that I was somebody's son, that I was somebody who cared enough about me to come see me. I was larger than the poorest mistake that I had exercised in my life. That is what Dismas House embodies. Through their case management, through the services that they provide to people returning back into society. They are not giving people a second chance, they're giving people a fair opportunity. Because truth be told, some of us never got a first chance in life. I wait for my amen corner to give me an amen. So why is supporting Dismas House important? Dismas House, in effect, serves as a beacon of light for not just the city of Nashville, not just for the state of Tennessee, but for the entire nation. I read statistics all the time. A 6% recidivism rate is, in effect, unheard of. And there has to be something right about what Dismas House is doing in order to be able to have a recidivism rate that is as low as that is. If I don't cue you for an applause at anywhere else in my speech, I want to cue Dismas House for an applause. Dismas House is more than just a shelter. It's providing a home in a community for people who have been justice impacted. Some people who have been couch surfing all of their lives. Some people who have been staying with their baby mamas. You have to understand where we come from in order to understand what the term baby mamas is. But in effect, what that means is that people have had housing insecurities. It's a scary place when you have been in a structured environment and you come back out to the world. And you are returning back out to the world not knowing how you are going to make it. Dismas House provides a solution for people through case management, through reentry services, through independent housing. In effect, what they are doing is that they are providing a springboard to success rather than perpetuating the trapdoor to failure. Let me say that one more time for the people in the back. They are providing a springboard to success for people who are justice impacted rather than perpetuating the trapdoors to failure. When we think about how we break the cycle of incarceration, number one, we have to humanize the experience of people who have been justice impacted. That's the first thing. You have to treat people like they are, because all of us are a half a step or half a decision away from having been where some people have come from. I believe that a philosopher once said, "But by the grace of God, there go I." And so the first thing that we need to do is we need to humanize the experiences of people who have been justice impacted. The second thing that I want to challenge your thinking around is, how long does a person have to be home before they are not a returning citizen anymore? Just want to shake the room up a little bit. How long do I have to be home before I get my full citizenship back? How long do I have to be home before I'm not a returning citizen anymore? So we need to reframe our language. The third thing that we need to do, if we are really going to restore dignity to people, is we need to create a pathway for career development for those individuals. In this room, and I'm going to speak to my brothers specifically, who I consider my guests here, and whose experience I can relate to. In this room, there's a wealth of genius. There's a wealth of genius. There's a wealth of genius behind prison doors. When you heard from Christopher, when he was talking about he's a bad man, he meant that. I felt that for him. He wasn't saying that he was a bad man in terms of he was going to mug you if he found you in an alley. He was saying that he was tapping into the fullness of his potential on this side of life. And so while you may not have, my brothers, you may not have more degrees than a thermometer, that's okay. You have who you are. You have your skills, you have your potential, you have your ingenuity. Look, you have been in the dark corners of the cellar, in the basement of hell, and you survived. There's enough, you got the resiliency of a spring and a ballpoint pen. If you were older than 35, I would say you can take a licking and keep on ticking, but you wouldn't be able to really, you wouldn't really be able to understand what it is that I'm saying. But in essence, we have to be able to mobilize the inner passion and the potential of people who have been justice impacted. These are our nation's engineers. They shouldn't be reduced, and don't get me wrong, in all labor there's dignity, but they shouldn't be reduced down to just a warehouse job. They shouldn't be reduced down to just in the service industry. We need to be making sure that we are giving people a leg up. Allow me to just tap into the preacher boy that's inside of me. Jesus, on the road to Damascus, was challenged one day by some folks who were fault finders. And I know that there's no fault finders in this room, but society will try to find fault, Mr. Mayor. How will they try to find fault? I'm glad that you asked that question. They'll try to find fault through the more than 46,000 collateral consequences to one felony conviction. They'll tell you that you can't have housing because you have a felony conviction. They'll tell you that if you have a credit card that you've made on-time payments for and you have stellar credit rating, they will shut your credit card down because you have a felony conviction. In some states, you can't even get life insurance if you have a felony conviction. So society, Mr. Mayor, society, they will try to find fault. And so one day, Jesus challenged some fault finders. And they said, "Who is my neighbor?" He said, "I'm glad that you asked that question because I have an answer." He said, one day, there was a man who was walking down a road called Jericho. And as this man was walking down this winding road, he was accosted and he was robbed. And as he was accosted, because they didn't have Ubers back then, so he had to walk. So when he was accosted and he was robbed, there was a person who came by And this person, he was on his way to the polls because he had to vote. Or he may have been running office. No shots at you, Mr. Mayor. He may have been running for office. And this person who you thought would have responded to this individual's needs walked over this person who was hurting. Then the man, he laid on the ground and he heard the pitter-patter of somebody else's feet walking down this gravel-ridden road. And he said, surely this is going to be the person who is going to respond to my need. And that person didn't respond. And then finally, there was a person that they called a Samaritan. And the Samaritan was outcast at that time. And the Samaritan got off of his high horse and tended to the need of the individual who needed help. When you support Dismas House, in effect, what you are embodying is the spirit of the Good Samaritan. You are helping people who are helping people who need help. So when we think about who our neighbor is not an individual who, in effect, has a criminal history. Our neighbor is not someone who has always walked on the green and crossed in between. Our neighbor is people. And it just so happens that some people happen to exercise poor choices in life that have landed them in the abyss of incarceration. Allow me to pause for a brief commercial break and take a station identification, which I know that our meteorologists can appreciate. How many people in this room know someone who either has been incarcerated and or has been arrested? Just by a show of hands. Thank you. I want to make sure I was in good company. So when we support Dismas House, we are supporting people who are helping people who need the help. Last but not least, let me give you some final words. I'm just pausing for dramatic effect. In a film called The First Step, which the Arquettes are producers on, we were documenting how we were trying to get the Trump administration and the divided Congress in order to be able to pass this bill that ultimately, to date, has released more than 30,000 people from federal prison. 30,000 people from federal prison. There is a moment in the film where I'm confronted by an individual who I don't even want to name. But when I went to introduce myself to him, or I should say, my boss at the time, she went to introduce me to this individual. He wouldn't even shake my hand. And you see this exchange on the film. And he said, "Who are you?" Not who I was, but he asked, what crime did I commit? And I began to list my resume. I'm a licensed clinician, got X amount of degrees. This is who I am. And none of that stuff mattered. And what they didn't show in the film is that afterwards, in that moment, I actually got misty-eyed because I said to myself, no matter where I go, no matter who I'm connected to, no matter how many bills I pass, people are always going to see me based off of my history and not my destiny. At the time, my grandmama was alive, and I called home, and she said, "How was the day today, baby?" And I was like, I called my grandma mom. I said, "Ma," I said, "yeah, these people, this is what happened." She said, "I'm gonna ask you a question." I said, "What's that?" She said, "Is there anything good that can come out of Nazareth?" I said, "I don't get it." She said, "Is there anything good that can come out of Nazareth?" I said, "I guess so." She said, "Show people that there are good things that can come out of Nazareth." My challenge and charge for you today is that if you want to see if whether or not there is any good thing that can come out of Nazareth, i.e. Dismas House, all you got to do is come and see. My name is Louis L. Reed. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Louis, those were powerful words. I'm inspired, and I think many others are inspired by your path and what you're doing now to help others. So if everyone will, please give our speaker, Mr. Louis Reed, another big round of applause.
My name is Bridge Desai. I'm originally from London, England. Unfortunately, I made a mistake. It was a costly mistake that I regret and wish I'd done differently. But I served 37 months at Bledsoe County Correctional Complex. Cleopatra, Dismas House, admissions manager. She came there, told us about Dismas House. I was blown away, and I remember arriving because it was Thursday, July 22nd, 2021 at 7:56 p.m. Never forget it. I walked in those doors and wow. When I walked into my room that night upon arriving, there was a welcome package with clothes and snacks and bottled waters and a nice card welcoming me. Dismas House invested so much into me, and I did the same. That's what Dismas means to me. When I was incarcerated, I worked for TRICOR, and TRICOR stands for Tennessee Rehabilitative Initiative and Correction.
I've known Bridge for a few years, and the thing that really caught my eye about him was he's a very positive, very upbeat individual. Where do I see Bridge, going in the future? We're trying to get him exposed to different things that we do. We're taking him down the same path that we take a lot of our future leaders. And, I hope that he continues, to work with us and to perform the same level that he has the past 3 years.
My name is Bridge, and Dismas House to me means the opportunity to change for the better.
I am thrilled to welcome our next speaker, Mr. Bridge Desai.
Good afternoon, everyone. Before we get started, Mom, don't let them take my chicken and my cheesecake. I want to thank you, each and every one of you, for being here today. Looking around the room at a sea of familiar faces, friends, family, and colleagues, I feel overwhelming gratitude. Just a few years ago, this movement would have seemed impossible. As you heard, my story took a turn in 2018. Finding myself incarcerated was a low unlike any other. It wasn't the way things were supposed to go. I worked hard. I had an experienced and successful career, but I made costly choices that didn't reflect my character. I found myself starting over. Leaving incarceration, I faced the numerous barriers of re-entering society topped by the possibility of isolation. The burden of broken relationships weighed heavily. Though I was fortunate to have the support of my parents, yeah, you too, others weren't so sure of who I had become. My choices let a lot of people down, but on this path, I met a lot of people who saw right through that. Thankfully, I found a place that provides stability in the face of all uncertainty. One that sees each individual for more than just their past. I discovered Dismas House and found more than just a re-entry program, but an unwavering support system. More than having basic needs met there, I was met with dignity. I was provided with structure from all sides, and the foundation was laid for restoration, for a proper restart. Community dinners there were more than just a meal. The fellowship helped me foster genuine connections with other residents, with other neighbors, and with staff, reminding me that I was not alone. When I got out and had limited funds, Dismas provided me with transportation, which was more than a means for my work commute. It was a method of saving to purchase my own vehicle without added stress. The roof over my head was more than shelter. It was a home housing a family who cared about my potential. It was a classroom with the tools that I needed to rediscover my personal values, and it was the stability for growth. Dismas House's partnerships are just more than relationships. They're true connections that furthered my progress and the progress of others. While securing an apartment with a background is a challenge, their connections helped me obtain my own lease to an amazing apartment with a lake view. Yes. It also reconnected me to Tricor, as you saw in the video. I am beyond grateful and appreciative to be a part of the Tricor team, as you see right here representing. Thank you so much, Tricor. Tricor is more than a job. They truly care about my development and my future. I am where I am today because of the holistic support I received at Dismas House. Relationships have been restored, my footing has been regained, and I'm proud to be a thriving member of my hometown once again. This month actually marks 1 year since I moved out of Dismas House, and I couldn't be more optimistic. Thank you. Thank you. I continue growing in my career, working on fulfilling projects, love mobile apps, and saving to become a homeowner. I can't wait for what the remix. I can't wait for what the future holds. But in the meantime, I do not take a single day for granted. I enjoy giving back to Dismas House to repay what Dismas House gave to me. Together with my friend and roommate, Carson Earl, who's here. Carson, thank you. My best friend, Sajith, of 20 years, who literally flew in for 15 hours from Kansas last night and is leaving right after this for his support. Saj, you're the best. But together with my friends, we are proud to continue hosting regular community dinners at Dismas House campus. Though I have to admit, we'll never ever provide chicken tenders so wonderful as the chicken tenders Mrs. Jamie Conley provides. Where are you? I have to find you. There you are. I've never met you, but I've met your chickens so many times. Thank you, Mrs. Conley. Giving back like this is a small way for us to show we care. And just so all of you know, you too can host a community dinner to get involved. Just reach out to contact Dismas House and learn more. If I could tell the 2018 Bridge that this would be life right now, I wouldn't believe him. But permanent change for the better is possible because of supporters like all of you. Thank you for your commitment to Dismas House and for helping me rewrite my story. Thank you.
Growing up with the typical broken home, I grew up and kind of adopted the life of crime. Got married, had kids, still had crime, and still continued to do that until I found myself in trouble. Trouble I couldn't get out of. I went to prison. I got out of prison. Everyone was like, go to Dismas, go to Dismas. So I kind of looked into it and I took a chance. I was like, well, let's go to what everyone seems to be talking about. I'm a supervisor at Mid-South Wire here in Nashville in the mesh department. I work nights. Dismas House helped me get work boots. They sent me to a program. They gave me clothing. They gave me everything. Life is amazing now. I got a townhouse, brand new car. All of my bills are paid. I mean, I don't want for anything. I wake up happy in the morning. I get to see my kids. So that's probably one of the most exciting things in my life because I wasn't prepared when I got counseling. I kind of said, what do I do? And they kind of said, well, just be yourself, do what comes natural. Dismas House has standards. So you have to meet those standards, you know, and then you kind of adopt them as your own. You're like, wow, I'm not going to stray from these. These obviously are working for me. So why wouldn't I continue to do that? My name is Justin. Dismas House means to me family.
Thank you, Bridge. Thank you, Justin. And if you all will, give another round of applause for the powerful lineup of speakers that we have had today. Now, please welcome to the stage Mr. Don Holmes. He is a longtime board member of Dismas House, and also welcome our honorary chairs, Christina and David Arquette.
saying if they need a taste tester for the taste-making event at Bellevue, you know, we're available. Okay. I was just wondering why we didn't get invited to that. Okay. I'm stealing the show, sorry.
That's okay. Good afternoon, everybody. And Leland, thank you so much. Today, we heard powerful testimonies directly from 5 men whose lives were changed by incarceration. Their stories are unique, but share a common thread of restoration. For 4 of these men, Dismas House provided the roots for lasting change, for dignity to begin. They received a fair chance at starting anew and have all rooted themselves in our communities again.
That's right, Dawn. I'm back. We had the pleasure of hearing from Eddie, who is on the path to becoming a master electrician. We heard from Chris, who now has his own family and finds fulfillment creating art as a barber. We heard from Lewis, dear Lewis, who has used his path to advocate for reform nationally.
We heard from Bridge, who came full circle to establish a meaningful career in his hometown. And we heard from Justin, who received the help needed to become the father his children deserve.
These men are far more than formerly incarcerated individuals. They are sons, fathers, brothers, friends, and our neighbors. They represent transformation, restored relationships, reunited families, and reimagined futures. As Lewis said, your support is not a solitary act. It is a ripple effect that positively impacts our entire community.
Dismas House cannot do this work alone. Together, all of us, with your help, we can reach our goal of $175,000, which goes directly to men just like Eddie, Chris, Justin, and Bridge. These men that are behind me, these men who are experiencing life-changing programming right now.
To Don, Christina, and David, thank you all so very, very much. The mayor left, but he can get you the hookup for the Taste of Bellevue, all right? He was there. I got some connections, but he's got more, all right? But we can get you there for the Taste of Bellevue. But we also want to thank all of you all for joining us. Have you enjoyed the program today? We thank you so much for spending part of your day, your lunch hour with us. We are honored that you have chosen to be a part of the Dismas House family. Until next time, we wish all of you all a very wonderful afternoon. God bless everybody.